Out of the car, now. Officer Reddick's knuckles rapped against the window hard enough to shake the entire vehicle. Then came the mocking laugh. Well, well, look at this. Another single mom thinking the rules don't apply to her. Maya Brooks froze, fingers tightening around the steering wheel. Her daughter, Ava, strapped in the back seat, blinked awake at the sudden noise. I wasn't speeding. My taillight just went out. Don't care, Reddick cut in. Step out of the car. He leaned forward, sunglasses reflecting her face, her exhaustion, her fear, the shadows under her eyes from 3 jobs, 3 hours of sleep, and 1 long night of studying for a certification exam she prayed would change their lives. Sir, my daughter's in the back. Can I just... Reddick tapped the butt of his flashlight against the door. I said get out. What part of that sounds optional? A second officer approached from behind. Officer Dalka, tall, broad-shouldered, smirking like this was entertainment. Typical, Dalka muttered loudly enough for Maya to hear. Always an excuse. Always playing victim. Ava whimpered softly. Mommy? It's okay, baby. Just stay buckled. Reddick yanked the door open before she finished the sentence. Outside, he snapped. The late evening air hit her like ice as he grabbed her arm and pulled her onto the pavement. She stumbled. He didn't care. He shoved her against the side of her own car so hard the window rattled. What are you doing? Maya gasped. I didn't do anything wrong. You talked back, Reddick said, grinning. That's enough. Dalka circled the car, peering inside at Ava. Cute kid. Shame her mom doesn't know how to behave. Maya's stomach dropped. Don't talk to her, she snapped before she could stop herself. Reddick's expression sharpened like a blade. Oh, you definitely shouldn't have said that. Before she could react, he grabbed her wrists and jerked them behind her back. Cold metal cuffs bit into her skin instantly, slicing a thin line on her left wrist. Ava started crying. Mommy, Mommy. It's okay, Maya cried out, turning her head toward the open door. Ava, don't be scared. Quiet, Reddick barked. You're being detained. For what? She demanded, panic rising in her throat. I didn't break any... He shoved her forward, hard. For attitude, he said, and for refusing a lawful order. Dalka snorted. We should tow the car, too. Teach her a real lesson. Maya felt her knees wobble. Tow her car? With her daughter sitting inside? Leave my daughter out of this, she pleaded. Reddick tilted his head. Then maybe next time you'll remember how to speak to officers. Dalka reached inside the car, unbuckling a terrified Ava. Come here, sweetheart. Ava screamed, Mommy! Don't touch her! I swear to God! Reddick slammed her against the cruiser hood. That's enough. One more outburst and you're spending the night in county. Tears streamed down Maya's cheeks. Not because of the pain, not because of the fear, but because she knew this wasn't just about a traffic stop. It was power. It was ego. It was 2 officers looking for someone they could intimidate, and she was an easy target. A young black mother, driving a beat-up car. Late evening, her kid in the back. They thought she was powerless. They thought she had no one to call. They thought she was just another woman they could shove around. They had no idea who she actually was. Reddick finally turned her around. Wallet. She stared at him. Wallet, he repeated. Where is it? In my purse, she whispered. He jerked open her driver's side door and rummaged through her bag like a raccoon tearing through trash. Let's see what we've got. Driver's license, debit card, food stamps card, figures. Maya's face burned. Reddick kept digging. Ah, here we go. He pulled out her slim black wallet and flipped it open. Then he froze. Just for a second. But Maya saw it. His brows knit, his mouth twitched, his jaw clenched. Dalka stepped closer. What? What is it? Reddick didn't answer. He stared at the card in the inside sleeve of her wallet, a dark blue and silver rectangle, shaped like a badge, embossed, laminated, and unmistakable. Military grade. Federal level. Ranked higher than anything he had ever seen up close. Maya kept her voice low, controlled, deadly calm. You should probably read it, she said softly. Reddick swallowed. Dalka reached for it. Let me see. Don't touch it, Maya snapped. And for the first time they stopped her, her voice held authority. Real authority. Dalka frowned. What kind of credential? It's a federal identification badge, Maya said. Issued last month. I earned it. Reddick finally read the title on the card, and his face went white. Dalka read over his shoulder. The blood drained from his face, too, because the card didn't belong to security personnel, or basic federal employees, or even state-level executives. It belonged to a rank far beyond their reach, a clearance level higher than both of them combined, a position that outranked their entire precinct, a position that could end their careers with one phone call. Ava, still crying, reached out from the back seat. Mommy. Maya lifted her chin a fraction. Officer Reddick, remove the handcuffs. He didn't move. He couldn't. Dalka spoke first, voice cracking. This has to be fake. Nobody from that division drives a rusty Honda. Nobody. Maya glared at him. Are you calling my credentials fraudulent? Because that's a federal offense. Dalka stepped back. Reddick swallowed hard. Ma'am, look, maybe we got off on the wrong. Remove the cuffs. His hands shook as he fumbled for the keys. The metal loosened. Her circulation returned in painful waves. As she rubbed her wrists, Reddick tried again. Ma'am, if you just told us who you were. Why would I? I complied. I spoke respectfully. You escalated because you wanted power, not safety. Dalka tried to straighten. Look, we didn't know. That's the problem, she cut in. You assumed. Her voice rose, not yelling, but sharp, pointed, lethal. You assumed I was unimportant, that I was helpless, that I was beneath you. You didn't ask questions. You didn't assess the situation. You saw a black, single mom and decided to flex authority. Reddick opened his mouth. No, she said, don't speak. She reached into her wallet and pulled out a second card, this one with a seal neither officer had ever seen in person. I'm required by my position to report misconduct and excessive force and targeted harassment. Dalka took a step forward. Wait, ma'am, please, if this gets to internal affairs. It's not going to internal affairs, Maya said coldly. Both officers stiffened. It's going above them. Reddick sucked in a breath. Above? You'll find out soon enough. She walked to the back seat and scooped up Ava, who clung to her neck, sniffing. The officers stood frozen, like two men who just realized they tried to bully the wrong woman. Maya opened her car door, looked at them one last time, and said, I was on my way to the federal field office for my first day of training.
You didn't just harass a single mom on the side of the road. She held up her badge. You harassed your superior. And then, softly, almost kindly, I suggest you pray this is the worst consequence you face. She drove away, leaving two trembling officers staring after her, knowing that everything had just changed.
Officer Reddick didn't move for nearly a full minute after Maya drove away. His hand still hovered in the air where her cuffs had been. His mouth was dry, his pulse slammed against his neck hard enough to make him dizzy. What the hell just happened? Dawka whispered. Reddick didn't answer, because he knew exactly what happened. He had put cuffs, tight cuffs, on a federal officer with clearance higher than anyone in their entire county. He had yanked her out of her car in front of her child. He had shoved her onto a hood. He had mocked her, and he had treated her like trash on the side of the road. And she outranked him. By a mile. Dawka ran a hand through his cropped hair. You think she's gonna report us? Reddick shot off a look so sharp it could have been a blade. She already did, idiot! Dawka blinked. She didn't call anyone. Reddick shook his head slowly. That badge? That card she had? High-clearance federal officers don't use internal affairs. They don't file complaints at the desk. They don't talk to supervisors. They report up their chain, not ours. Dawka's face paled. So we're screwed? Reddick didn't say it, but the answer was yes. They were beyond screwed. He finally snapped out of it and stormed to their cruiser. Get in, he ordered. Where are we going? Dawka asked, voice small. To get ahead of this, Reddick muttered. We talk to the captain. We explain it before she spins it. Dawka swallowed. You think she'll lie? To get us fired? Reddick slammed his door shut hard enough to shake the cruiser. She doesn't need to lie. Everything we did is bad enough as is. Silence. Dawka's face twisted. She's just some mom, driving a junk car. You think DC gives a damn about... Reddick shot him a cold glare. Dawka, that mom has federal authority. You heard her. She had a clearance badge. Level 5 at least. Dawka blinked rapidly. What does level 5 even mean? Reddick didn't answer for a bit. Because level 5 was above their pay grade. Way above it. But he knew enough. Level 5 personnel can override local jurisdiction. They have access to restricted databases. They work joint operations with national security. Wait, Dawka stiffened. So she could actually get us fired? Reddick stared out the windshield. Fired, Dawka? She could get us blacklisted from law enforcement nationwide. Dawka's breathing turned shaky. But she won't, right? I mean, she's a single mom. She won't want to go through the trouble. Reddick gripped the wheel. That single mom had ice in her voice. She wasn't scared of us. She wasn't intimidated. She was pissed. Dawka swallowed. Hard. Maybe we can apologize. Reddick's jaw tightened. We don't find her. We go straight to the captain. Now. He put the car in drive and sped toward the station. The precinct looked different when fear sat in your chest. It felt smaller, colder, like every fluorescent light was a spotlight and every officer they passed somehow already knew. Captain Morales was in her glass office reviewing files when they entered. She glanced at them over her glasses. You two look like you saw a ghost. Reddick cleared his throat. Ma'am, we need to speak with you. Privately. Dawka nodded eagerly. Very privately. Morales eyed them, suspicious. Sit. They sat. Explain. Reddick started from the beginning. Well, his version of the beginning. The vehicle's taillight was out. We initiated a stop. The driver was argumentative, non-compliant. Dawka nodded vigorously. Very non-compliant. And then what? The captain asked, unimpressed. We detained her. Detained or arrested? Reddick hesitated. Detained. Dawka coughed. With cuffs. Morales' eyes sharpened. For a busted taillight? She was resisting, Dalka stammered. Was she violent? No, Reddick admitted. Not violent. Threatening? No. Belligerent? Reddick hesitated a fraction of a beat too long. Morales leaned back, lips tightening. So you cuffed a woman who wasn't violent, wasn't threatening, wasn't fleeing? Dalka swallowed. Well, when you put it like that, that is how it is, the captain snapped. I asked a yes or no question. Reddick inhaled sharply. Yes, ma'am. And then what? Reddick and Dalka exchanged a panicked glance. You better spit it out, Morales warned. She had credentials, Reddick said. Federal credentials. Morales froze. What kind of credentials? Reddick put his elbows on his knees, head low. A high clearance badge. Morales' eyes widened. How high? Level 5. Morales stood fast so her chair scraped the floor. Level 5? Reddick nodded. Dalka added, There was a seal. I'd never seen anything like it. But the badge... Morales held up a hand. Both of you stop talking. They shut up instantly. She closed her eyes for a moment, processing, calculating, maybe even silently cursing. When she opened them, she looked 20 years older. You two idiots might have just detonated your entire careers. Dalka whimpered. We came to you immediately, ma'am. Good, she snapped, because if she contacts Washington before I do, we're not talking discipline. We're talking federal review. Reddick felt sweat trickle down his spine. Morales didn't sit back down. Instead, she paced slowly across her office. Tell me exactly what happened, every detail. For the next 10 minutes, Reddick explained everything, down to how Maya looked, what she said, how she reacted, and worst of all, that she never raised her voice. Never cursed, never resisted. Morales exhaled sharply. This is bad. If she files a complaint, Dalka stuttered. Morales turned to them with a hard glare. She doesn't need to file anything. Level 5 agents don't file. They report. You know who gets those reports? Neither man could speak. The captain answered for them. Joint oversight. Dalka blinked. Who's that? You don't want to know. Silence. Morales pinched the bridge of her nose. We need to identify her. Immediately. Reddick nodded. I got her name. Morales stared. You didn't think to start with that? Dalka elbowed him. Tell her! Reddick cleared his throat. Maya Brooks. Morales typed rapidly at her computer. Nothing. No DMV match for federal credentials. Try Federal Employment Database. Access denied. Morales frowned. Strange. Dalka whispered, Maybe she gave a fake name? Level 5 agents don't give fake names, Morales snapped. She tried a different channel. Still nothing. No records, Morales muttered. Reddick felt his stomach drop. What does that mean? Morales looked up slowly. It means she's even higher clearance than you thought. The room felt suddenly too small, too cold, too quiet. Dalka's voice cracked. What do we do? Morales stared out the frosted office window like she could see the future through it. I don't know yet. But whatever we do, we better do it fast. At that exact moment, across town, Maya sat on her couch, Ava curled up asleep on her chest, her laptop open in front of her. She typed quietly. Her message wasn't angry, it wasn't emotional, it wasn't vengeful. It was surgical, precise, professional. A report written by someone who knew exactly how this process worked, exactly where it went, exactly whose careers it would touch. When she hit send, she whispered, For every woman who has ever been bullied on a roadside. Then she closed her laptop and let the system do the rest.
Reddick barely slept that night. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan as it spun slow, uneven circles above him, each turn sounding like a countdown. He kept replaying the same scene. Maya's calm eyes, her badge, the moment she pulled her wrist free and left him holding an empty pair of cuffs. He'd handled fights, shootings, car chases, screaming drunks, angry parents, but nothing terrified him like the image of her badge. Federal. High clearance. Unlisted. The kind of badge you didn't talk back to. The kind that could erase careers. He got up before dawn, uniform half-buttoned, hair barely combed, and drove to the precinct faster than he ever had for any emergency call. When he arrived, Dalka was already there, pacing in the hallway like he was waiting for a judge to read his sentence. "You heard anything?" Dalka asked, eyes wide and bloodshot. "No," Reddick muttered. "You think that's good or bad?" Reddick didn't answer. Because silence, when it came to federal anything, was never good.
They found Captain Morales in her office, staring at her computer like it had just delivered news that could flatten the entire department. She didn't look up when they entered. Instead, she said, "Close the door." The two officers exchanged a look. Reddick shut the door carefully. Morales leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, her coffee untouched beside her. Never a good sign. "Remember how I said last night that I would try to get ahead of this?" "Yes, ma'am," Reddick said. "Well," Morales nodded at her screen. "Too late." Dalka paled. "She filed a complaint?" Morales gave him a look so sharp he fell silent before she spoke a word. Complaint is not the right term. What she filed wasn't addressed to internal affairs. It wasn't addressed to our state oversight. It wasn't even addressed to DOJ civilian review. The captain turned her laptop so they could see the screen. Pages and pages of text. "What is that?" Reddick asked, throat dry. "A report," Morales said quietly, "filed through a classification-protected channel. It went to a joint federal oversight board, not the usual one for police conduct either." Dalka frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Morales said, "we're not dealing with a routine review. We're dealing with a cross-agency federal investigation." Dalka whispered, "For a traffic stop?" "For misconduct involving a high-clearance officer," Morales corrected, "which is treated as obstruction, dereliction, and breach of protocol." Reddick felt like he'd just been dipped in ice water. "You're saying?" "I'm saying," Morales interrupted, "that Maya Brooks may have more authority than anyone in this building except maybe the chief. Maybe more than him, too." Dalka sat down heavily, his knees wobbling. Reddick swallowed, fighting anger, fear, and disbelief all tangled together. "Look, Captain, with all due respect, she escalated it." Morales raised her brow. "Did she? From what she wrote, she stayed calm. She informed you of her credentials, and you continued the confrontation." Reddick clenched his fists. "She didn't show his credentials until after she was detained." "Detained illegally," Morales reminded him sharply. Dalka let out a strangled sound. "We're dead! We're actually dead!" "You're not dead," Morales snapped. "But you may be suspended, possibly terminated." Reddick felt heat rush through him. Not anger, panic. "Captain, we need context. We need to know who she is, what she does, what agency she's with." Morales shook her head. "I don't know. Her information is redacted even at my clearance level." "Redacted?" Dalka squeaked. "Yes, meaning she's operating in a capacity you should never have interfered with." Reddick leaned forward. "So what do we do now?" Morales sighed. "Cooperate. Fully. Transparently. And pray." Dalka let his face fall into his hands. "Oh my God." Morales turned back to Reddick. "And you especially. Keep your temper level. This is not the time to crack." Reddick bit his inside of his cheek until he tasted metal. 2 floors above the patrol division, in a conference room usually used for city budget meetings, 3 unfamiliar men in suits arrived before noon. They didn't introduce themselves. They didn't smile. They didn't shake hands. They simply entered Captain Morales's office and closed the door. Dalka stared at the hallway from the patrol desk. "Tell me they're city auditors," he whispered. Reddick shook his head slowly. "They're not." "How do you know?" "City auditors don't show up unannounced. Feds do." Dalka made a noise like a dying pigeon. Reddick didn't respond because he didn't trust what he might say. He didn't trust himself at all anymore. Meanwhile, across town, Maya was sipping coffee at her kitchen counter while Ava colored at the table. Not stressed, not worried, not even fixated on what had happened. Just calm. But beneath the calm was purpose. She'd dealt with officers like Reddick before, not often, but enough times to know the type. Men who escalated because they expected fear. Men who puffed up because intimidation worked on most people. Men who thought authority was the loudest voice, not the highest rank. She'd learned long ago that the most dangerous thing you could do to men like that was tell them no, or worse, show them they weren't the most powerful in the room. Ava looked up. "Mommy, are you mad?" Maya smiled softly. "No, honey, not mad." "Are you sad?" "No, sweetheart." Ava squinted thoughtfully. "Are you busy?" That made Maya laugh. "Yes, actually." She closed her laptop gently. Her report was done. Her part in this was done. The system would move on its own now. The wheels of oversight were slow sometimes, but they were heavy. Once they turned all the way. Back at the precinct, the three mystery agents emerged from Morales's office. Reddick and Dalka watched from across the room. One of the agents pointed at them. Morales nodded. The agents stepped closer. Officers Reddick and Dalka. The two men straightened instinctively like schoolboys caught doing something wrong. "You will join us upstairs. Now." Dalka's voice cracked. "Are we in trouble?" The agent replied without looking at him. "You are under review." Reddick's heart thudded painfully. "Understood," he said. The agent turned away. "Follow." As they walked, Morales called after them. "Cooperate. Answer honestly. Don't embellish, and remember, this isn't optional." Reddick nodded once. Dalka whispered, "We're dead." But Reddick wasn't thinking about termination anymore. He was thinking about Maya Brooks. Who is she? What does she do? And why does her badge, her calm, controlled demeanor, terrify federal investigators enough to show up within 12 hours? Upstairs, the conference room was cold. Too cold. Like someone had lowered the thermostat on purpose. 3 chairs waited. 2 for them, 1 across the table. An agent sat down and folded his hands neatly. "Let's begin." Reddick inhaled deeply. Dalka fidgeted so much the chair squeaked. "Officer Reddick," the agent said. "Walk us through the traffic stop." Reddick did. Every detail, every step. He tried to make it sound reasonable, justified, procedural, but the agent's expression never changed, and the more Reddick spoke, the more the truth became painfully clear. There was no version of this story where he came out looking good. 20 minutes in, Dalka cracked. "We didn't know who she was. She looked like any other." The agent held up a finger. "Finish that sentence carefully." Dalka clamped his mouth shut. The agent leaned forward. "You treated her less because you assumed she had no authority, and you escalated because she didn't cower." Reddick felt his jaw clench. The agent continued, "But you didn't realize the mistake until you saw her badge." Reddick didn't respond. The agent's eyes narrowed. "Did you believe her authority was fabricated?" "No," Reddick said. "I believed it." "Did you fear repercussions?" "Yes." "Did that fear begin before or after you uncuffed her?" Reddick hesitated. "After." The agent nodded once, like he had expected that answer. "Then the issue," the agent said slowly, is not fear of wrongdoing. It is fear of exposure. That one sentence hit harder than any punch. Dalka deflated. Reddick swallowed hard. The agent closed the file. This investigation is ongoing. You both will be placed on restricted duties until further notice. Dalka gasped. Reddick stared blankly. Dismissed. When they stepped into the hall, Dalka looked like he might faint. Reddick looked like someone had carved out his insides and left them empty. The precinct suddenly felt enormous, foreign, hostile. Morales approached them cautiously. "Well?" "We're restricted," Reddick said flatly. Dalka whispered, "Captain, who is she?" Morales didn't have an answer, but someone did. Because as she opened her mouth to speak, a fourth agent, a woman this time, stepped out of the elevator, holding a sealed folder. She looked at Reddick, at Dalka, then at Morales. Her voice was calm, clipped, and unmistakably authoritative. "You asked who Maya Brooks is." They all turned rigid. The agent handed Morales the file. "Here's your answer." Morales opened it. Her eyes widened dramatically. She actually staggered. "What?" Reddick demanded. "Who is she?" Morales lowered the file slowly and whispered, "She outranks all of us."
For a full 5 seconds after Captain Morales whispered those words, nobody breathed. Reddick stared at her, waiting for clarification, waiting for her to laugh, to take it back, to tell him this was some ridiculous mix-up in a federal database. But Morales didn't laugh. She didn't blink. She didn't even look up. She just held that folder like it weighed 50 pounds. Finally, her voice scraped out, low and shaken. "Maya Brooks isn't just federal. She's Special Oversight Division, National Security Branch." Dalka blinked. "That sounds made up." "It's not." Morales shut the folder gently, like closing a coffin. "They investigate misconduct involving federal personnel. They also oversee interagency cooperation. They can audit, reassign, or shut down local departments." Dalka made a small noise in his throat. Shut down?" Morales nodded once. "Yes." Reddick's blood turned cold. But Morales wasn't done. "She's not entry-level or admin." Her voice thickened again. "She's a deputy director." Dalka swayed. "Like supervisor level?" "No," Morales whispered. "Like 4 levels above the highest clearance in this precinct." Reddick gripped the edge of the hallway wall to stay upright. "Captain, with all due respect," he rasped, "how does someone like that end up at a traffic stop at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday?" Morales closed the file completely and finally met his eyes. "Because she wasn't working," she said. "She was picking up her kid." Reddick felt sick. The woman he had dragged from her car. The woman he had cuffed. The woman he had mocked. She wasn't on duty. She wasn't on assignment. She wasn't even armed beyond standard lawful carry. She was just a mother. A mother he'd treated like a threat. Morales stepped closer, voice tightening. "She only presented her badge because you escalated past the point of legality." Reddick swallowed hard. "She was calm. Too calm." "That's because she knew exactly what would happen next," Morales said. Dalka whimpered. "We're so fired." "No," Morales corrected. "Fired is the best case scenario." Dalka nearly fell over. The fourth agent, the woman who had delivered the file, interrupted sharply. "Captain, the deputy director has requested an in-person debrief." Morales straightened. "Here?" "No." The agent handed her a printed address. "She requested you personally, Captain Morales. No other precinct personnel." Dalka and Reddick exchanged a look.
Requested her personally? That sounded intentional, motivated, maybe even targeted. Morales hesitated. What does she want to discuss? That information is classified, but it is in your best interest to attend. Reddick stepped forward without thinking. Can I? No, the agent cut in. You cannot. Dalka raised a timid hand. What about? No. Reddick opened his mouth again. The agent didn't even look at him when she said, officers involved in misconduct are not permitted contact with the complainant during an active investigation. Reddick's teeth ground. Is that what we are now? Subjects in a misconduct case? The agent looked at him then, eyes sharp as razors. You're lucky it's not a criminal case. Dalka gulped audibly. Reddick looked away. The agent nodded at Morales once. You have 1 hour. Then she turned and left, heels clicking down the hall like a metronome, counting down to Judgment Day. When she was gone, Dalka collapsed into the nearest chair. We are ruined. Completely ruined. I have a mortgage, man. Reddick didn't answer. His mind was racing too fast, his own voice drowned out by memories, flashbacks, scenes he wished he could undo. He had been in policing long enough to know mistakes stuck like tar. But this? This wasn't a mistake. This was a catastrophe. Captain, he said finally, what does she want with you? Morales sighed and rubbed her temples. I don't know. But she cast them both a rare sympathetic look. I don't think she requested me because she wants to hurt you. Dalka blinked. What does that mean? Morales hesitated, then said something neither officer expected. She knows I wasn't part of the incident. That means she wants something from leadership. And if she's the kind of officer her file suggests, she might be trying to fix the department, not burn it down. Dalka perked faintly. Fix it how? But Morales didn't answer. Not because she didn't want to, but because she didn't know, and that terrified her more than anything.
Across town, Maya pulled into the underground garage of a federal annex building so nondescript it looked abandoned. Ava sat in the back seat with a juice pouch, kicking her sneakers against the seat rhythmically. "Mommy?" she asked. "Are we meeting someone?" "Yes, baby." Maya reached back and brushed her daughter's cheek. "Just for a few minutes." Ava nodded. "Okay." Maya stepped out and walked around the car, picking Ava up and balancing her on her hip effortlessly. Inside the building, she walked straight to a retina scanner. "Deputy Director Brooks," the system chimed politely. "Welcome." The door unlocked. 2 agents stepped aside as Maya passed. She didn't go to her office. Not yet. She went to the observation room where a monitor showed precinct footage. Body cams uploaded automatically even when officers didn't want them to. Her own arrest played again. She watched it with no emotion. Ava leaned her head on Maya's shoulder. "That's you." "It is." "You look mad." "No," Maya corrected softly. "I look disappointed." Ava nodded sagely, as if that made perfect sense. A voice behind her said, "Captain Morales will be here in 40 minutes. Maya turned slightly. It was Agent Sullivan, her second in command. "She thinks she's walking into a disciplinary meeting?" Maya asked. "She thinks she's being questioned," Agent Sullivan said. "She does not expect what you're actually planning." Maya nodded slightly. "Good." She kissed Ava's head. Because she wasn't planning revenge. She wasn't planning a crackdown. She wasn't planning to fold the precinct or fire half its personnel. She was planning something far more seismic, structural, systemic, necessary. Her arrest had shown her everything she needed to see, and Captain Morales might be the one person in the entire department worth saving. Sullivan cleared his throat.
Ma'am, you know we support your decision, but if you want full departmental restructuring, the union will fight you. So? Maya asked. So it will get messy. Maya's voice stayed calm. Too calm. Good. Meanwhile, back at the precinct, Reddick sat alone in the locker room. Dalka had gone home to panic in private. Most of the shift avoided eye contact with him, whispers rippling behind his back, half guilty, half satisfied. This was what happened to tough guys who got too loud. This was what happened when the wrong person got cuffed. Reddick stared at his reflection in the metal locker door. He looked tired, older, smaller. How the hell did this get so out of hand? He muttered. But deep down he knew. He'd seen a woman he assumed had no power. He treated her like someone beneath him. He escalated because he wanted control. And now she had all the control. His phone buzzed, a number he didn't recognize. He hesitated, then answered. A voice he knew instantly, smooth, composed, terrifyingly calm, spoke. Officer Reddick. His throat closed. It was her. Maya Brooks. He sat up straight. Deputy Director, about the report. I didn't call to discuss the report, she said. He froze. Her next words slid down his spine like ice. I called to tell you something before the investigation goes further. He held his breath. You don't know me, but after what happened last night, I know exactly who you are. Reddick swallowed hard, and then she added, but I'm giving you a chance. A chance? Reddick blinked. What kind of chance? Her voice sharpened. A chance to prove that what happened last night was bad training, not bad character. His breath hitched. Before he could respond, she finished. I don't destroy people who can be reformed, but I do expose people who refuse it. Then the line went dead. Reddick stared at the phone. He didn't breathe for nearly 10 seconds, because that conversation only meant one thing. She wasn't finished. Not with him, not with Morales, not with the department, and not with the city. This wasn't a warning. It was the beginning.
Morning came fast and ugly. Before sunrise, before commuters filled the freeways, before the city fully woke, the story had already slipped through the cracks. Someone leaked the footage. No one knew who. No one admitted anything. But by 6:13 a.m., a shaky cell phone video taken by a bystander, the moment Reddick dragged a woman out of her car, was circulating across 3 neighborhoods. By 6:47 a.m., it reached the local news channel. By 7:30 a.m., it hit social media. And by 9 a.m., a version with captions reached 4 million views. Officer drags single mom out of her car at traffic stop. Her ID says otherwise. The video didn't show Maya's badge, didn't show her rank, didn't show her identity at all. Just what everyone could see. A woman who offered no resistance. A child screaming in the back seat. A cop pulling her out like a criminal. And a voice off camera saying, "Why he doing her like that? She ain't do nothing." The city didn't know her name yet, but the anger grew fast. And when anger grows, the fallout grows faster. At the precinct, the morning briefing room felt like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Captain Morales stood at the front, holding a printed copy of the headline with both hands. Her voice trembled slightly, not with fear, but with frustration. "All right," she said, "we need to address this before command sends directives. This is contained for now, but containment won't last long." Contained? Dalka snorted under his breath. Contained was not the word he'd use. Half the squad already watched the video. The other half pretended they hadn't. Morales cleared her throat and continued. Officer Reddick, Officer Dulka, you will be placed on administrative leave pending the federal review." Dulka's mouth dropped open. "But Captain—" "Don't," she warned softly. "Not now." Reddick stayed silent. He knew it was coming. He'd known since the moment those federal agents stepped into the hallway. But hearing the words still burned. Administrative leave meant no badge, no gun, no patrol car, no authority. It meant isolation. It meant shame. It meant every officer in the room glancing away like he'd suddenly become contagious. One of the older veterans muttered, "Damn, should have just written her a warning." Another whispered, "These traffic stops are going to kill us one day." Someone near the back added, "Better her than me." Morales banged a hand on the desk. "That's enough." Silence snapped into place. But silence wasn't safety. Silence was just the pause before the explosion. "Captain," Reddick said finally, voice low, "is there any word from the feds?" Morales exhaled. "Yes." "And?" he asked. "They're coming," she said simply. Dulka whined under his breath. Reddick closed his eyes. "Coming when?" he asked. Morales hesitated. "Soon." The room felt 10 degrees colder. "Dismissed," she said, but no one moved, because everyone sensed something bigger was unfolding, something unprecedented, something coming for all of them. Meanwhile, across the city, Maya sat in a glass-walled conference room inside the Federal Annex building. Her daughter Ava drew with crayons on a stack of printer paper in the corner. A swirl of rainbows, a dog shaped vaguely like a potato, a scribble that apparently represented ice cream. Normalcy, sweet, innocent, grounding. Sullivan entered with a tablet in hand. He said, "You should see this, quietly," sliding it across the table. Maya didn't flinch. She already knew what it was. The leaked video. The edit. The captions. The outrage. She pressed play anyway. There she was, body pulled sideways, face hitting the hood, wrists cuffed, head shoved down. Her child screaming in the back. Strangers filming. Strangers muttering. Strangers witnessing everything she'd kept quiet for hours. Sullivan spoke gently. "Ma'am, if you want us to intervene publicly, we can. A press statement, a clarification, an official—" "No, ma'am." "No public comment," Maya said calmly. "Not yet." "But the narrative—" "Let it cook." Sullivan hesitated. "What are you planning?" Maya leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. "When a system rots from the inside," she said quietly, "you don't cut out the infected parts first." Sullivan swallowed. "You expose the rot," Maya continued. "You show everyone what's underneath the paint. And then, only then, do you rebuild." Sullivan exhaled slowly. "So you're letting the story burn." "I'm letting the truth rise," Maya corrected, "on its own." She didn't sound angry. She didn't sound vindictive. She sounded patient. And patience is far more dangerous than rage. At the precinct entrance, news vans began to cluster around the sidewalk. Camera crews set up. Microphones pointed at the doors. Reporters rehearsed segments under their breath. It was only a matter of time. Inside, officers peeked through blinds and muttered fears. "This is going to ruin all of us." She wasn't even resisting. "Did you see the kid? God. Reddick's career is over. Dulka's too. Captain Morales is next." Rumors were gasoline. Fear was the match. Morales entered the hallway with her jaw clamped tight. She could feel the tension vibrating through the building like a physical hum. She passed Reddick leaning against his locker, staring at nothing. "You need to go home," she told him. He didn't move. Go home? Home was where his mother lived, where his son visited on weekends, where the neighbors waved good morning. How was he supposed to go home when the whole city might soon know his name? He finally muttered, "Captain, the video doesn't even show her badge." "That doesn't matter," Morales said gently. "It should," he whispered.
No, she corrected. What matters is behavior, conduct, optics, pattern. Reddick froze. Pattern? He echoed. Morales lifted her chin. You know what I mean. And he did. Suddenly, the locker room felt too small. He grabbed his duffel bag with shaking hands. I'm not racist. Morales didn't reply, because intent didn't matter, only impact. At noon, the mayor held a press briefing. At 1 p.m., the city's police union made a statement blaming viral misinformation. And at 2 p.m., a civil rights group announced a march. And at 3 p.m., the story reached national news. Not because they cared about the stop, not because they cared about Maya, but because someone unidentified had leaked a second detail. The woman in the video was law enforcement, a high-ranking officer. By evening, rumors multiplied. She's FBI. No, Secret Service. No, she's a general or something. Speculation grew. Anger grew with it. Every television in the city replayed the same loop: the grab, the shove, the cuffs, the screaming child. And every replay increased the pressure on the department. At 7 p.m., Captain Morales entered the federal annex, alone. Shoulders squared, chin lifted, weapons voluntarily left in her locked car. She walked through the lobby where 2 uniformed federal agents watched her. No words, no greeting, just acknowledgement. She was escorted down a long hallway. At the end stood Maya Brooks. In a quiet room, hands folded, expression unreadable, daughter coloring beside her. Morales froze. This was not a woman enraged, not a woman eager to destroy careers, not a woman nursing a bruised ego. This was someone with authority, with restraint, with purpose. And purpose is far more dangerous than power. Captain Morales, Maya said softly. Thank you for coming. Morales swallowed. Deputy Director. Silence hung between them, heavy, thick, charged. Maya gestured to the chair across from her. Sit, she said. And when Morales sat, she added, we have a lot to discuss. A lot. Not just the arrest, not just the video, not just Reddick and Dulka. No. This was bigger. Much bigger. Because Maya's plan was not to punish one officer. Her plan was to dismantle the entire system that allowed this to happen. And Morales was about to learn exactly what her role in that plan would be.
For a moment, Captain Morales didn't move. She sat across from Maya Brooks as if the air itself had turned solid, thickening with a pressure she couldn't quite identify. In all her years on the force, 2 decades, 4 precincts, 3 different captains, and a lifetime of internal politics, she had never felt this particular kind of tension. Not fear, not guilt, not defensiveness, not even anger. It was something else entirely. Reckoning. Maya folded her hands on the table. Captain, she said softly, before we begin, I want you to understand something. Morales straightened in her chair. I'm not here to destroy your officers, Maya continued. I'm here to expose the truth behind how they operate. Morales's jaw tightened. With respect, Deputy Director, the situation is escalated. The press is doing what it always does, amplifying the truth people kept whispering. Morales exhaled through her nose. Your officers, Maya interrupted gently, dragged me out of my car in front of my child without cause. Morales flinched. She hadn't expected the bluntness. Maya didn't raise her voice, didn't posture, didn't shift in her seat. She didn't need to. The footage is viral, Morales admitted quietly. I'm aware. You're not aware. Not of what matters. Morales blanked. because something in Maya's tone was not anger. It was certainty. Calm, terrifying certainty. "I want to show you something," Maya said. She tapped her tablet. A holographic projection rose above the table, muted blue light forming a floating digital map of the city. Colored dots blinked like slow heartbeats. Red for violent stops, yellow for escalated stops, green for routine stops, blue for stops with use of force, purple for racial disparity indicators. The map glowed like a constellation of dysfunction. Morales stared in silence. Maya rotated the map with 2 fingers, zooming in on 2 specific corridors, the ones that intersected the neighborhood where she was stopped. "Captain," Maya said calmly, "this is the last 5 months of data from your precinct." Morales' eyes widened. "How did—" "I have federal clearance," Maya said simply. "Your systems aren't as insulated as you think." She paused. "Now, look again." Morales leaned closer. The red and blue indicators clustered in familiar intersections. Too familiar. Maya tapped the largest cluster. "Officer Dalka, 32 escalated stops in 5 months, 12 involving use of force, 0 reports filed acknowledging citizen injury." Morales closed her eyes. "And here," Maya continued, tapping another cluster. "Officer Reddick, 59 stops, 23 escalations, 7 uses of force, only 1 body cam flagged for review." Morales swallowed. "We're understaffed. High crime area. Officers' experience." "This isn't about excuses," Maya said. "This is about patterns." She folded her hands again. "Your officers target specific neighborhoods at statistically impossible rates." Morales stared at the map. "It's not intentional," she said. "There are deployments, directives, hotspot assignments." "Do you believe your officers are malicious?" Maya asked. Morales hesitated. "No." "Do you believe they are biased?" Morales hesitated longer. Then, "I don't know." That, at least, was honest. "And do you believe the department protects them when they behave improperly?" Maya asked. Morales didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her silence was the answer. Sullivan stood in the corner, silent, hands behind his back. He watched the exchange, chest tight. Because this is what Maya did, not with physical force, but with truth, precision, patience, evidence layered until denial collapsed under its weight. This wasn't a meeting. It was a quiet annihilation of the status quo. Maya lowered the hologram with a swipe. The room dimmed again. A citizen shouldn't need to be a deputy director at a federal agency to avoid being brutalized at a traffic stop. Morales opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Deputy Director Brooks," she said softly, "I know what happened to you was wrong. I'm not here to defend that." "Then what are you here to defend?" Maya asked. Morales' throat tightened. "My officers need guidance. They need training. They need oversight. Better oversight. We can fix it." "No," Maya said gently. "You can't."
You've tried, Maya interrupted. For years. I've seen the reports. I've reviewed the audits. I've spoken to oversight committees that rubber-stamped improvement plans for a decade. She leaned forward. Captain, the system isn't broken. Morales frowned. Then what is it? Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. It's functioning exactly as it was built. Morales inhaled sharply, because she knew what that meant. A broken system fails unpredictably. A corrupt system fails selectively. An intentional system fails consistently, against the same people, in the same neighborhoods, in the same ways. And everything Maya showed her pointed to consistency. Maya tapped the final tab on her tablet. A report opened. Captain Morales, she said quietly, your department has a 72% racial disparity in discretionary stops. Morales stared. And a 41% rate of unjustified escalations. The captain's mouth went dry. And a pattern of 46 officers who repeatedly avoid disciplinary action through loopholes your Internal Affairs Office refuses to close. Morales felt her stomach sink. Slowly. Heavily. Irrevocably. Because she knew the numbers weren't wrong. She'd seen them in fragmented forms, scattered across bureaucratic reports, buried in footnotes. But no one had ever assembled them like this. No one had placed them in front of her with the calm, decisive clarity of someone who intended to dismantle them. So, Morales said finally, voice hoarse, what do you want from me? The question trembled. Not out of fear. Out of anticipation. Because whatever came next would change everything. Maya didn't rush her answer. She stood, walked slowly to the window, looked out at the city, the same city where she'd been shoved against her own car hood 12 hours earlier. I want you, Maya said softly, to help me rebuild this from the inside. Morales blinked. Rebuild the department? No, Maya said, turning to face her. Rebuild trust. Rebuild oversight. Rebuild the culture of policing in this city. Morales shook her head slowly. You're asking for something enormous. No, Maya said. I'm asking for something overdue. And you think I can do it? Maya met her eyes. Yes. Morales stared back. There was no flattery in Maya's tone. No manipulation. Just a clear assessment of who Morales was and what she could become.
You're not corrupt, Maya said. You're not blind. And you're not afraid to confront the truth. Morales let out a shaky breath. And if I say no? Maya paused for only a fraction of a second. Then I'll tear this department apart without you. Silence. Cold. Absolute. Unflinching. Morales felt something shift in her chest. Because Maya wasn't threatening her. She was stating a fact. A simple, unavoidable truth. If Captain Morales refused, the department would fall anyway. But harder, messier, with far more casualties. And Morales would watch from the sidelines as it burned. But if she agreed, she wouldn't just be part of the story. She would become the beginning of something new,
something painful, something necessary, something that frightened her as much as it compelled her. Morales placed her palms flat on the table. Inhaled, exhaled. Slow, steady, resolved. "Deputy Director," she said, "tell me what you need." Maya sat again. Her expression softened just slightly. "First," she said, "we start with transparency." "Transparency," Morales repeated. "Yes," Maya said. "I want everything. All internal affairs records, all complaint logs, body cam data, deployment directives, training evaluations, every file you've buried to protect your officers, every report someone pressured you to rewrite." Morales swallowed. "That's decades of material." "I know. It will expose people I've worked with for years." "I know. It will destroy careers." Maya held her gaze. "Yes," she said, "it will." Morales closed her eyes. "And after that?" she asked. "After that," Maya said, "we hold a public forum." Morales's eyes flew open. "A public?" "Yes." "Deputy Director, the Union will—" "The Union," Maya said calmly, "is already preparing statements. They will not dictate the narrative." Morales shook her head. "You're going to turn the entire city against us." "No," Maya said. "Your officers did that themselves. I'm turning the truth into accountability." Sullivan, still silent in the corner, felt the hair on his arms rise. This wasn't reform. This wasn't oversight. This was structural demolition. And Maya was laying the first brick. Morales took a long, trembling breath. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll give you what you need." Maya nodded once. "Captain, I'm not your enemy." Morales looked down at her hands. "No," she whispered, "but you're going to make me one inside my own department." Maya didn't argue, because it was true. "Then, I guess," Morales forced a fragile smile, "I should get started." Maya stood and extended her hand. "Welcome to the beginning," she said softly. Morales shook it. And in that moment, in that quiet federal conference room, under the sterile LED lights, the first official alliance was formed. Not between institutions, not between agencies, but between two women. One who had been harmed by the system, and one who had finally stopped pretending she could control it.
The first crack didn't come from a press conference. It didn't come from Maya Brooks. It didn't even come from Captain Morales. It came from silence. A silence so unnatural inside a police station that every officer felt it long before they understood it. No jokes, no locker room laughter, no slamming of filing cabinets, no half-hearted banter about weekend plans or arrests made. Just the faint hum of fluorescent lights. And the weight of a truth everyone sensed but no one yet named. At 7:14 a.m., Captain Morales walked into the precinct carrying two large boxes, unmarked, heavy, filled with files no one had ever expected to see again. Sullivan carried the other two. Every pair of eyes followed them. Dalka leaned back in his chair near the duty desk, arms crossed, chewing gum like nothing bothered him, except the tightness in his jaw gave him away. Reddick sat upright at his computer, hands frozen above the keyboard, not typing, not moving, staring at Morales as if she were walking toward her execution. She didn't look at either of them. She didn't look at anyone. She walked straight into her office and closed the door. That's when the whispers started. What's going on? Is it true she met with internal? I heard she's turning over files. No way, she wouldn't do that. Then what's with the boxes? Something's happening, something big. Dalka snorted loudly. "Relax," he muttered. "This is political theater. Nothing's gonna happen." But he didn't sound as confident as he meant to. Reddick didn't respond, because Reddick wasn't stupid, and he wasn't careless. He was terrified. Not of losing his job, though that was suddenly a real possibility. He was terrified of facing the truth he'd spent his entire career avoiding. He wasn't the hero he thought he was. For years, he had worn that badge like armor, believing every order he followed was righteous, every escalation justified, every stop necessary. But last night, he'd watched the viral footage again. The moment when he dragged Maya Brooks out of her car. The moment she protected her son even as he yanked her arm. The moment she stood up straight and he shoved her again anyway. At the time, he'd thought she was being defiant. Now he realized she was being composed. And that made the entire incident look different, suddenly, painfully different. He rubbed his temples. He didn't sleep last night, or the night before that, or the night before that. Dalka smacked his shoulder. "What's your problem?" Dalka muttered. "You look like hell." Reddick swallowed. "I saw the data." "So?" Dalka shrugged. "So," Reddick whispered, "we're on it." Dalka rolled his eyes. "Of course we're on it. We work the highest crime beats. Numbers don't mean anything." Reddick stirred at him. "Dalka? What? Do you believe that?" Dalka opened his mouth, closed it, then scowled. "Don't start that woke bullshit on me now." Reddick looked back at Morales' closed office door. Something was happening. He could feel it in his bones. At 8:03 a.m., Morales opened her door. The entire station froze. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't slam anything. She didn't posture. She simply said, "I need all sergeants, squad leaders, and Officer Reddick and Officer Dalka in the briefing room. Now." Dalka flexed his neck. "Told you," he whispered, "political theater." But even he didn't move right away. The others did. No one breathed as Morales set up a projector at the front of the room. She wasn't wearing her usual soft composure. Today, her face was stone. Sullivan stood beside her in full federal uniform. That alone was enough to make several younger officers sit straighter. Federal presence meant investigations. Investigations meant records pulled. Records pulled meant careers ruined. Dalka elbowed Reddick. "Relax," he muttered. "They wouldn't come after us. They need boots on the ground." Reddick didn't answer. He knew better. Sullivan tapped a tablet. The screen behind them lit up. Charts, body cam heat maps, complaint logs, race disparity tables, escalation patterns. No one spoke, no one moved, no one blinked. Morales stepped forward. "There is no easy way to say this. This department has been operating with systemic misconduct patterns for years." The room erupted. Gasps, curses, muttered objections. Morales raised her hand. "Quiet." And to everyone's shock, including hers, the room obeyed. This data was aggregated by federal oversight specialists and cross-referenced with our internal IA logs. "And who requested that?" Dalka barked. Morales looked at him. Directly. "I did." His mouth snapped shut. Reddick felt his stomach twist. Morales continued. "Effective immediately, every discretionary stop must have a supervisory review. All body cam uploads will be audited by a federal team. All officers flagged with patterns of escalation will undergo mandatory retraining and psychological evaluation." Murmurs. Angry ones. "This is bullshit. They're treating us like criminals. This is political pressure. We've done nothing wrong." Morales raised her voice slightly. "This is accountability." A hush. Dalka slammed his palm on the table.
So what? All our years of service mean nothing? We're the ones protecting this city. We're the ones putting our lives on the line. You're also the ones harming civilians, Morales said quietly. Those civilians? Half of them... Sullivan cut in. Finish that sentence, please. I want to hear you say it. The room held its breath. Dalka swallowed hard. He didn't finish. Morales nodded to Sullivan. He tapped the projector again. 2 video feeds popped up, one from Dalka's body cam, one from Reddick's. Unredacted, unedited, unfiltered. Every escalation, every shove, every threat, every unnecessary force incident that had been buried in non-compliance reports. Reddick couldn't breathe. He watched himself drag Maya out of her car. He watched her flinch. He watched her son scream for her. He watched himself yank her harder. Dalka leaned forward. His face paled. It wasn't that he didn't remember it happening. He just didn't remember it looking like that. "Turn this off," Dalka said, voice cracking. "Captain, turn this off." "No," Morales said. "Morales," he snapped. "No." Reddick whispered, "Dear God." For 20 minutes, the footage played. No one spoke. No one defended themselves. No one called it biased or fake or exaggerated, because the evidence was not a narrative. It was a mirror, showing exactly who they had become. After the footage ended, Morales turned to the officers. "Each of you will receive individual reviews. Federal mandates begin today, and there will be consequences for misconduct." Dalka stood up abruptly. "This is a witch hunt," he snarled. Morales met his eyes. "No, Officer Dalka. A witch hunt looks for imaginary villains. We're finally acknowledging real ones." Dalka's face twisted. For the first time, Reddick saw something he had never expected. Fear. Dalka left the room without permission, slamming the door behind him. No one stopped him. No one followed him. Reddick stayed seated. Morales addressed him directly. "Officer Reddick." He lifted his head. "You have a choice. Tell the truth, or keep hiding behind reports and assumptions." Reddick's voice cracked. "Captain, I don't know who I am anymore." Morales stepped closer. "Then start over," she said gently. "Tell the truth. Begin there." Reddick felt tears sting his eyes. He didn't wipe them away. Outside the precinct, protesters began gathering. Inside the station, federal teams prepared for sweeping audits. And in the captain's office, Maya Brooks sat with a single folder open, preparing the next move. The turning point wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it wasn't cinematic. It was quiet. A shift hardly noticeable until the entire system felt it. The point where denial collapsed. The point where truth became unavoidable. The point where the story stopped being about the officers and began being about what came next.
By noon, the precinct parking lot looked nothing like a police station. It looked like a siege. Black SUVs from federal oversight agencies lined the curb. Uniformed auditors carried boxes of files out of the building. Reporters crowded behind caution tape shouting questions toward anyone in uniform. Aerial drones hovered overhead like mechanical hornets. And in the middle of it all, Captain Elena Morales walked down the station steps with a calmness that made even seasoned officers stop and stare. She had known this day would come. She just didn't expect it to feel like this. Heavy, yes, but also clean. Like the air after a storm is finally broken. Inside the station, chaos simmered beneath forced order. Officers whispered, argued, shoved papers into shredders until federal agents unplugged them from the wall. Supervisors tried and failed to calm their squads. 2 officers were escorted out under suspicion of evidence tampering. And in a quiet interview room, Officer Reddick sat alone with Sullivan, hands clasped, breath heavy, eyes hollow.
He wasn't under arrest. Not yet. But his entire world was falling apart. "Officer Reddick," Sullivan said gently, "this isn't a criminal interrogation. Not right now." Reddick didn't look up. He stared at the cold metal table as if it were the only thing anchoring him to the ground. "I watched the footage again this morning. The Maya Brooks stop." Sullivan nodded. "I know. It didn't look like that in my head." He swallowed. "In my head, I was controlling the situation." "And now?" Sullivan asked. "Now, I look like—" Reddick's voice cracked. "A bully. A monster." Sullivan leaned back. "You look like a man who forgot to ask himself why he was doing what he was doing." Reddick flinched. Sullivan continued quietly. "You were influenced. You were trained in a system that taught you certain neighborhoods meant danger, that certain people meant noncompliance, that escalation was safety." Reddick looked up for the first time. "But that doesn't excuse it." "No, it doesn't." Reddick nodded slowly, painfully. "I want to tell the truth. All of it. Everything I've seen. Everything we buried. Everything that was covered up. Even if it destroys me." Sullivan didn't smile, but something in his posture eased. "It won't destroy you. It will rebuild you." Reddick wiped his eyes. "And Dalka?" he asked. Sullivan exhaled. "We'll handle Dalka." Reddick nodded again. Not out of defeat this time, but of acceptance. Finally. Dalka, meanwhile, paced inside the locker room like a caged animal, his jaw clenched, his shoulders stiff, his fists balled so tightly his knuckles turned white. "They're not doing this to me. To us. We're the ones on the street. We're the ones facing danger. They don't get to judge how we do our job." He slammed a fist into a locker. The metal dented inward. Two younger officers flinched and backed away. Dalka didn't notice. He didn't see the fear in their eyes. Fear not of him losing his badge, but of him losing control. "This whole thing is a setup." Dalka spat. "They're sacrificing us for optics, for politics." He grabbed his vest, his baton, his duty belt, panic and fury making his movements jerky. He was going to leave. He didn't know where. Just out. Away. Before the consequences caught him. But as he marched toward the exit, he found the doorway blocked by two federal officers. "Officer Dalka, we need you to come with us." Dalka glared. "Move." They didn't. "You're not under arrest," the agent continued, "but you are being placed on immediate administrative leave pending a misconduct investigation." Dalka's lip curled. "Pending," he repeated mockingly, "meaning you already decided." "That's enough," Sullivan's voice said from behind him. Dalka turned and froze. Sullivan stood with his arms crossed, expression unreadable. But behind Sullivan, something worse. Reddick. Dalka's eyes widened. "You?" Dalka hissed. "You turned on me?" Reddick didn't flinch. "I told the truth." Dalka stepped forward, rage trembling through his shoulders. "You coward! You spineless—" Sullivan stepped between them. "That's enough." Dalka looked back and forth. Reddick, Sullivan, the federal officers blocking the door. For the first time, the truth hit him. It was over. His career, his reputation, his protection under the old system. Gone. Federal officers escorted him out the rear exit, away from cameras. Back in Morales' office, Maya Brooks sat across from the captain, not as a victim, not as a complainant, but as a consultant. Morales pushed a document toward her. This is the preliminary restructuring outline. I want your insight. Maya hesitated. You want my input? She asked, stunned. Yes, Morales said. You've been on the other side of this longer than any of us. You know the fear, the patterns, the blind spots. Maya swallowed hard. She had come here for justice, revenge even, but she hadn't expected this. Not a weapon, not a victory lap. A seat at the table. She opened the folder. Inside were drafts for new policies, de-escalation, mandatory protocols, bias response training, transparent stop requirements, a civilian review board. Maya exhaled. This is real. It will be, Morales said. Help me make sure of it. Maya nodded. She didn't smile, but something in her chest loosened. For the first time since that night, she felt safe.
And not because a single cop had been punished, because the structure itself was changing. By 3 p.m., news networks confirmed what the city already suspected. The precinct was now under federal supervision. Several officers were temporarily suspended. Multiple supervisors were being investigated. The racial profiling algorithm was being dismantled. Dalka's pattern of misconduct was exposed publicly. Reddick had volunteered to be the first officer in a new mandatory retraining program. Reporters broke into live updates. People cheered in the streets. Protesters outside the station held signs reading, "Accountability is not an option, it's a necessity. Reform isn't anti-police. Maya Brooks deserved better." Inside her home, Maya put her son to bed with a soft story and a warm blanket. His curls brushed her cheek. His small arms wrapped around her neck. "Mommy," he whispered, "are the bad police gone now?" She paused, not wanting to lie, not wanting to promise something uncertain, so she told the truth. "Some of them," she whispered, kissing his forehead, "and we're working to make sure the rest learn to be better." He nodded sleepily. That was enough for him. For tonight. At sunset, Maya stepped onto her small balcony, phone buzzing with messages she hadn't opened yet. When she finally tapped one, she paused. It was from Morales. "This isn't the end, but today was a beginning." Maya looked out over the city. Cars hummed, lights flickered. Sirens wailed softly in the distance, not hostile, not alarming, just normal, just part of life. And she realized something. Justice wasn't a moment. It wasn't a verdict, or a firing, or a viral video. Justice was a direction, a journey. And for the first time in a very long time, the city was finally moving the right way.